All right, guys, we are back, and we just hit a really big point with Natalie and Jason. We all got our tissues out. If you heard the end of it, they hit day 6, a really hard day for them while they were in cancer, while they were in New York fighting cancer. But we're back, and we're talking about relationship repair. When you hit that absolute bottom point, and then you start digging a hole, but you start to repair. And I think we all hit it as caregivers, no matter if you're in a medical crisis or if you're in a long-term issue, a long-term disease like, Parkinson's or dementia, Alzheimer's. So Nat, I'm going to turn it back over to you. You are on day 7. That's after the night of day 6. The night of day 6.
The day after.
You have slept on the sofa after sharing some really rough words with your husband. That really ugly day 6, when I'll say it, when you pretty much told him you hated him. It was the worst. It was one of the worst days. But you're back, and you're working, you're repairing. It's going to be still a long season in New York, but you are repairing. And
we've relationship repaired. It's very important to me. And so I think there is something that I've learned, especially over the years, is humility. And whether it's your fault or someone else's, it's for me, if I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong. And relationships are so important to me. Attachment is the number one human need that everyone has. And so you have to have humility to go back, because, most people be like, I don't need them. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You need relationships in your life. People who don't have a lot of people, you need people. We're human. So good news. We didn't get divorced.
Yay! Saint Jason is still in our lives.
Yeah, and there was forgiveness. And then the thing is it was such a tense time. I mean, I am not a saint. And I think if you're honest with yourself as a caregiver, there's going to be times when you snap at the person that you're caring for. Maybe your tone was more. So if you are this, Jesus's younger sibling, that you've probably said maybe something a little bit more sassy than you maybe would, because you've lost your patience. Like, you lose your patience. You just want them to do what you want to do. I just wanted Jason to eat. And you know what? I think for him, he had control over nothing. And so choosing to eat, not eat, was a thing for him as a form of control. So we had the food conversation at every meal. But again, at this point, I am no longer a wife. My role is no longer a wife. I thought about it while he was having his infusions one day, and I started writing down the job titles that I had. And wife never hit it. I had 40 job titles, and wife was not one of them. There was nothing intimate about our relationship. I mean, he had cancer in his mouth anyway. But, here's the funny thing. So, friends, Jason said to me when I told him I was going to do a podcast, he said, don't talk about our sex life. And I'm like, what? We have to be authentic with our listeners. He's like, Natalie, don't you dare talk about that. And I'm like, okay. And so, which I'm not going to, but
Jason, he's so fantastic.
It's like, he knows me. He's like, Natalie. And I'm like, but here's the funny thing. Our chemo oncologist said, when you're having chemotherapy, it's really important that you not have sex, not that you not have sex, but you don't want to get pregnant. And I laughed out loud and thought, seriously, are you actually telling me not to get pregnant? Number one, I'm 46 years old. I have no kids. I'm like, honestly, I sometimes see small children, and when they cry, it makes my uterus go, no. And so, like, don't worry, we won't get pregnant. And we didn't. And so like, I'm like, I never even thought about being intimate. Now, mind you, we loved on each other and kissed or whatever, but I mean, you don't think about that. You're just surviving. You're like, what? It's like, I couldn't believe
he probably thought about that. Let's get real.
Did he? Because if he did,
he's a man. Of course he's going to think about that.
I don't know.
Because that's funny. I'm not going to lie to you. But anyway, so needless to say, we're moving through everything and we get to the last, and, we have our ups and downs. I have all my people who are supporting me. And as we come to the end, it was this belief that he was so excited. June 23rd was our last treatment. His last radiation. We rang the bell when we did radiation. At the completion of his radiation, which we found out, we were so blessed, his body was responding. He met the clinical trial requirements, so he only had to have half the radiation treatments. Thank you, MSK. We love you, Dr. Lee. You are amazing, Dr. Dunn. We love you, and all the people at MSK. And then we rang the bell again with when he had his last chemo. And we really love ringing the bell. We love that. And so we're doing his infusions. We had to stay a week longer. And so we are leaving. We left. We had the opportunity to be in New York on July 4th. And we had these special moments that we would share together. There are places that's the intimate part. Your relationship changes. And so the time that we would go to Sutton Place Park off 57th, we would go there and we would sit, and he could barely stand to walk 2 blocks, but I would get him out because the doctors were like, you got to get him outside. You got to get him moving. He's got to do that. And so I'm like, please come with me. And so we would go and look at the East River and look at Roosevelt Island. And we would spend maybe 15 or 20 minutes. And there's pictures, and we'll put the pictures in here. There's pictures of us where we're sitting there and we're smiling. And I'd post those on Facebook, and everybody's like, oh, you're so happy. And I'm sitting there like, you have no clue that we are in a complete dumpster fire. But this is like, that's the glimmer. Sometimes you have to make the glimmer. As a caregiver, I had to help him find joy.
Those moments, and the pictures when you guys would be in the cafe at MSK, and you would be downstairs, and we knew that he wouldn't eat, but he would have like the little meal in front of him trying to eat, or like those times I remember sending like different protein drinks. Like there was some sort of splashy fruit juice
Boost.
Protein drink.
Thank you. You kept us alive, Boost.
Yeah,
520 calories. He'd drink 2 of them a day.
I mean, anything like that, we would see him, or the sun hat. You guys were always on the bench, and the big sun hat.
Us and Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
That's what we felt like.
I mean, but those, I knew we watched him lose weight, but those couple of those times, like I have to think that those times for you were the ones that were like when he was out. I guess those were the times when you had.
They kept me going. Yeah, they kept me going. And again, connection to God and listening to God and listening to music and our friends and the people at MSK encouraging us. Never a bad experience. I mean, we didn't have one bad experience there. And so we had the opportunity. We watched the 4th of July fireworks. We came back and it was interesting because I packed up all of our things. We decided we were going to drive home. So hello, I am official New Yorker because I drove us out of New York. And so Susan always laughs at me and she's like, I've never even driven in New York. And I'm like, do you have a driver's license? And so, because why she need a driver's license? She's a New Yorker. And so we drove around, we drove out of New York, and, kind of going back, Jason did so many things for me. Like the last weekend before we left, guys, he's, finished all his radiation. He just gotten done with chemo. He feels awful. And we went to the Statue of Liberty. Well, we didn't go to the Statue of Liberty because it was just a COVID spreader on the boat, but we went to the end of the island where we could see it. We had our photo, and that was close enough to the Statue of Liberty. It's not like we went sightseeing when we were in New York. We saw nothing. We're the only people who go to New York and see nothing. We saw the High Line, and we went to Central Park. I would walk to Central Park some days by myself, and he was so worried. He was so worried that people were going to get me. And I'm like, they would give me back. All I'd have to do is start talking.
Yes.
And so I would talk to Emilie, and I'd tell him, I have Emilie in the earbuds. So if somebody kills me, Emilie will be listening. She'll call 911 and they'll find my body. It's fine.
Yeah.
And
just drop a pin,
yeah, drop a pin where I'm at. And so Emilie and I
they'll find my earbuds.
Yeah. And Emilie, do you remember we would talk and walk, and I would just spill my guts, like everything that was in me. And I would spill my guts to you.
And then you would sound so stressed and so upset in the beginning. But by the end of our conversation, whether it was 10 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour, you were completely like, okay, I'm refreshed. I can go back in here. I can do this.
Yeah. And I would tell her all the great things about like Central Park or people I'd see. And then the other thing is that we rented bikes. And so I'm going to put that picture in as well. We've rented bikes. My husband, who has full-on cancer, and he did that for me because I told him I really wanted to ride bikes in Central Park, and I was just going to go by myself because I really wanted to do that. I needed the exercise. Exercise is a really stress reliever for me. And so he goes, well, I want to come. And I'm sitting there thinking, the hell you do? I know you don't want to come. And I'm like, are you going to come for real? And he goes, yeah. And I'm like, so we have electric bikes. We already have electric bikes at home. We have trek bikes. So we rented electric bikes. And I swear to you, people, I'm going to send this picture. We'll post it. We did 20 miles on electric bikes. I mean, that's
hard.
And so again, I know everybody, I can feel the listeners judging me, like you had your husband ride 20 miles on an electric bike. I honestly think it was as good for me, but it was as good for him as it was for me because he felt normal. It was something we did together. It was something we experienced, and we had so much fun. It was sunny. It was beautiful. And the Lord blessed us with a beautiful day. It was just amazing. And so it was great. And so going back, I packed everything, and it's July 5th, and we're driving, and we left after his last infusion. He did not want to spend another night. And he was like, we're leaving. I'm like, and the doctors were concerned. They said, you can't drive the whole way home. Cause I would have been like, boom. He would have actually said, we're going all the way home. It was 9 hours. And they were like, you'll have a problem. You can have a blood clot in your legs. You can't do that. And so we stopped halfway. But I remember leaving the city and feeling so sad because I love the city. I love the noise and the people. And I loved it. It was so alive. And I'm like, I can't even explain. It doesn't make sense. Like, why would I want to stay? And I'm like, but there are places that I loved. And so we go home. And that was not a great, the next morning he tried to eat something, and he will tell you, it did not settle. And he threw up, but he couldn't make it back to our room, and he threw up in a public restroom. And he will tell that story 1,000 times over. He almost wanted to vomit on top of his vomit because he was in a public restroom. And he goes, that was not clean. And he goes, I can't even get on my hands and knees. It's like the story in itself, when he tells it, it's really funny, actually. And you're like, that's awful. But we get home, and we're so excited. And I know our neighbor put balloons. I know it was you, Brenda. He put balloons.
I know.
Because we had our neighbors, oh my gosh, our neighbors made sure Emilie was at the house, and we left, and the gutter had gotten flooded, or all the leaves had gotten in the gutters, and it was pouring the rain, and rain starts coming in the house. And our neighbors, Gary and Nani, and then I know Alan and Brenda, they came and they came and cleaned our gutters out for us.
They're your tribe.
After we were gone, they're a tribe. They were our people.
They're people. Like, you
And
need people.
They mowed our yard every week. And Emily would mow the backyard, which cracked me up because she would send me photos. And but they mowed our yard. I mean, the kindness, like, you think about, honestly, people had lost faith in people. And that's the beauty of it, is people rallying around you, and the true human spirit of kindness towards one another came out. Yeah. And so that was fantastic. So we come home, there's balloons on our mailbox. I have a photo. We'll put that in here because that's fun.
So
and then go ahead.
Where was cancer when you got home?
So this was the problem. Jason just wanted to get home because he knew everything would be fine once we got home. Yeah. And so I came home and I was upside down. Like, we get home and everything, I'm so disoriented. I was so glad to see Emily. I was so glad to see the dogs. I was so glad to be in my home. And Jason was just as happy as a lamb. He was so happy to be home. And then it hits me. It's like, I'm not okay. And I tried, and I've been working the whole time. So here's the thing. I took intermittent FMLA because my HR said you should just do it. And I'm like, well, I'm not taking FMLA. I'm going to show everybody I'm Superwoman. I'm going to work the whole time. And nobody asked me. Nobody asked me to work the whole time. My boss wasn't like, Natalie, you must work. And so I get home and I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And for a couple of weeks, I couldn't figure it out. And like I was getting ready to say, I only took from February 14th till October 4th. I only took 3.5 weeks off, and they were never consecutive. I'd take an hour here and an hour there. So I never stopped working. It's crazy. And so, because in my mind, that was normalcy, but I realized when I was in New York, how addicted I had become to work, how I was so focused on pleasing others. And then I get home and I can't work, Jay. I remember sitting at the table and Jason said, "What are you going to do today?" And I'm like, I have no clue. I just sit there. I felt like a zombie, and I was just staring off into the backyard. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do today. I don't really know my name. And I was not okay. I was just not okay. And I felt worse at home than I did in New York. And I missed being in New York. And I think maybe I missed that. I had built that routine, and I couldn't figure out when I was going to listen to my Christian music in the morning. I couldn't figure any of it out. I didn't have any doctor's appointments. So I didn't know what I was supposed to do.
So you had God back there with you all the time.
Yeah.
In New York, because I know you've said so many times you found God in New York City because you took all that time for yourself. You were journaling there on the Cary Bridge.
Yep. And
so
I continued.
You were taking the time, and you were taking more time for yourself to a certain extent. Yeah. You guys were still listening to you were doing your devotions.
We were doing the Bible app. Thank you.
Yeah, the Bible app. So you were doing all that stuff. You get home, you're out of your routine.
Yeah.
And you've said, cancer did surprisingly come with you.
That hateful bee came with us. Like, she's always there. To her as the mistress because every commercial we'd watch, it was cancer. And Jason's like, geez, oh, please, could somebody stop talking about cancer? And you know what it was? It sat in the middle of us, like on the couch. That Winston always sits in the middle because he's a fat little nugget. So he needs his own chair. And so I felt this thing sitting between us. And I thought that we had left cancer in New York, and she came home with us. And it was the realization that the mistress was there. She was right in between us more than ever. She was sitting there interrupting our life. And I still was not a wife. I didn't suddenly become a wife when I came home. Yeah. I was still giving him meds because his meds, his cancer treatment would be in effect. It would keep doing its work for 30 days after. And so he got sicker when he was at home, and he lost more weight. He actually didn't lose as much weight when he was in New York City as when he got home. because that's when the full effects of his mouth, if he had opened his mouth, it looked like they described it to us. It's like the worst sunburn you would ever have is what radiation does. And when he would swallow, it was like swallowing glass.
Yeah.
And so that was hard. So it took me weeks, really a month and a half. And if I'm really honest about it now, because there's changes going on in my life, I wasn't the same.
Yeah.
I wasn't the same. Work wasn't the same for me. And I had no joy in my life. I couldn't find it. I was lost. And then
what happened?
I was talking with you guys about it, and I was on Facebook scrolling mindlessly, and I saw this podcast advertisement for Kathy Heller, like, hey, you should do this 3-day free class. Have you ever thought about podcasting? And I was like, no, but that sounds fun. And because mind you, I didn't reduce my work hours. I actually worked more, and I was trying not to work more. Because I said, I'm going to keep God first, me second, Jason, family, friends. And I was really trying to keep work at bay and try to keep good boundaries with it.
But you're trying to get a purpose back.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out. I'd lost what I was doing.
To do. Yeah,
like I haven't known what I've been doing for months, and so I was like, I should do a podcast. And I was so energized. Remember, Jay, that day I called you. I was like, it was only an hour at lunch, so I thought I can do that because it's my lunch and I'm allowed to have a lunch. And I was like, Jay, oh my God, you got to totally hear this podcast thing. We should totally do it. We should, because I'd already decided I was going to write a book. I really wanted to write about my journey because the Carrying Bridge inspired me to do that.
Well, and I'll interject there that it was interesting at the time because I had moved. And so we had also started that insane journey because at the same time, Natalie and Jason are having their journey. She's also having to deal with the fact that we're having an issue with mom. Another issue. Where we're having to move her we moved her into an assisted living facility right after Jason was diagnosed.
That's right.
And then we had to move her out right after Natalie and Jason got home from New York. And the trouble that we had with all that process had laid on my heart that I really wanted to do something to help people in that environment. And so then Natalie comes on and she says, I want to start a podcast. And I was thinking, well, that's not really what I wanted to do, but the concept was kind of the same. Like, I want to help people. And Natalie's like, we can help people this way. And you've always been a little overpowering for me. So I was like, okay.
I don't think anybody would catch that. And Emilie had moved in with mom to take care of her. God bless you. Because in New York City, I was very clear, turn around, don't drown, don't do it. And Emily's like, I really feel like I got to do it. And you guys will hear Emily's story. But I'm still going to say, turn around, don't drown, don't do it. And
all of this also, JJ is moving, to all the way to Florida to keep.
Oh yeah, I did that in August.
So we're getting JJ moved, mom moved, and
I just moved back.
It was crazy at the top.
I think we need a roadmap or something like that. I know.
I feel like here's this and here's an org chart. So after the 3 days, I told JJ, I was like, I'm going to sign up for this. And she was just as jammed as I was. And we're like, Emilie, we should do a podcast. And she was like, okay. And she's like, I don't really know what that is, but okay. And so it just snowballed. And you know what? I felt like reinvigorated. Like I was like, here's my purpose. God told me, because I had prayed the whole time. When I was in New York, I said, God, I know that what you want from me as a Christian is that you want me to go and tell my story, be a witness, lead others to you and your goodness. And I thought, well, I can be a witness. And I'd always been scared because some people are very scared of judgment and fear, and nobody wants fear. It's fear of rejection. Mm-hmm. Let's just call it what it is. And so I wasn't just out there just talking about Jesus and God and all that stuff. But the reality is he was in me. But I really took hold of that. I loved listening to Emilie. You would listen to Joel Osteen podcast. We love you, Joel. Joel, come on the show. And so we want you because you inspired us for a lot.
Every day. day, Joel.
We listened to your podcast every day,
Every
and
day.
I would get inspired, and rather it inspired me to help me with work because there were things that were going on with work that I was frustrated about, or I incorporated into my life. So between Joel and my Aunt Jane and JJ and Emilie, it was like,
And
so anyway,
Jesus.
and
You got, what,
Jesus. It
4
really was
J's going
Jesus.
on.
Yeah, right. We got a lot of J's going on. And so we do WWJD, and it's J to the third. So what would Jesus do? What would Joel do? And then what would Aunt Jane do?
And Jane do.
So we'll get into that more later, guys. But so we decided we were going to start a podcast, and then we did a website, and then we were like, well, how will people find us? And we were like, well, we'll do social media. Like, we decided this in
that was September.
And then we were like, and we contacted my friend Meredith, and she started creating stuff, and she gave JJ the brand. And I knew we wanted it to be Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver, because we kept toying with the words, but what is an accurate reflection of caregiving? And you know what? I'm like, nobody wants to be a caregiver. It sucks. And so reluctant is the right word, but it's not because we don't want to care for the individual. It's our own insecurities.
Oh, yeah. And it's and I'm not stealing your like story, but also it's
story.
Guilt.
It is guilt.
I feel awful.
Yeah.
I mean,
we all heard
like
day
I'm not,
6.
Yeah. I feel guilty about it. I'm not doing a good job, like what you said.
Yeah, totally.
That's our reluctance.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not trained for this.
Yeah. And there is no job description, and it's a hot mess some days. And, but you know what, so here's the thing. The whole point of the podcast was to say, you're not alone. And we want you to be able to relate, and you're going to relate to my day 6 somehow. We've all had a day 6, and I didn't just have one of them there. I never told them it was never as bad as day 6 again, but there were days that we would get snippy with each other. And, and he said something to me, and I'm not going to share it, but he said something to me that hurt my feelings so bad that I thought, I'm just going to leave. But he said it through it was in the lens of his cancer. I mean, he would have never said that to me. And so we have to give each other grace that in times of crisis, there's going to be things that are said because our bodies are so at max level stress.
Well, and Chris on the Whole Care Network, he said something because we were talking about, he's fantastic, but we were talking about when you say things like that. And he said, sometimes you have to look at those worst things and you have to say, that's not the person, that's the disease.
Oh, it's the cancer talking. It was the cancer talking. And it was for me. You know what? What I said to him, that was the cancer talking. Yeah. The cancer, cancer is so symbolic in so many things. What are the cancers in your life that keep you from experiencing joy?
True. True.
What are the cancers? Because cancer is not just a diagnosis, but gosh, there's so many people with cancer. But the reality is we all have a cancer in our life that experiences that. And once you acknowledge it, so this is the thing about the mistress. Once you acknowledge the mistress and that she's there, we learned to live with her, and we moved past her, and she got more and more quiet over time. And she faded back. And so I can tell you, it's taken us months to get back to a good place. And I just now, almost 6 months after returning home from the last treatment, feel like his wife. I had almost not been a wife for almost a year. And I had missed it, but I'm always going to be a caregiver. It's a part of who I am, and my journey is a part of who I am. But I felt this need to help others. And so we said, there's 4 things we wanted to do: relate, educate, because there's so much that people need to know. You've got to know things. And we want to help that because there were so many things related, especially more to our mom than Jason, that we didn't know, and that we needed to do, how to support her, how to support him the best way we can. And then we wanted to inspire, and I hope my story has inspired you that, yes, you can get through this too. And you can actually, here's the thing, don't just go through it, grow through it. You do something, take your story and be a blessing to someone else. That's why we have guests. That's why we're like, oh my gosh. And I can tell you, and it gives me cold chill. Look at the little goosebumps on my arms.
We will confirm, listeners, there are goosebumps.
There are goosebumps.
Arms.
Yes. This whole thing has actually been healing for me. Doing confessions and the stress of doing it, because I'm burning the candles at both ends. We all are, as we're doing this.
Still working.
Still working on it. It's also working. But it brings us joy. And I found my joy and I found my purpose. And I thought, man, God's got something bigger for me. And I told him I would go tell other people my story. But then in return, the guests that we have, the story that we share with each other,
the stories that we hear,
me.
Yes.
It healed me. And it allows me to be like, man, I am so blessed, because they tell us of how they overcame it. And I hope how I've overcome and the things I learned will be a blessing to you, that you say, yeah, I can do this too.
Yeah. The glimmer. Okay. So give us the inspiration. So what did we get in October?
Oh, what did we get in October?
Beginning of October. October
4th.
Yeah.
Jason, we went back and he had his he had a PET scan. It's a specialty PET scan. And in October 4th, 4 months after his last treatment, we got the fantastic news that there was no cancer detected in his body.
Yay!
So, of course, Jason's like, well, it takes 5 years, Natalie, before I can be cancer free. I'm like, for God's sake, Jason, like,
we're taking that clout. We're going
to win. We're going to take that win.
We're taking it.
And so we go back. It's so funny. We had no plan to launch the podcast. It was not connected, because we go back January 23rd and 24th. When the podcast launches, like you're listening to it, I am in New York right now, if you're listening to this, and we will have just had MRIs again to let us know how he's doing, which we are very prayerful that the scans are going to continue to be no cancer detected. And then we'll go back in June, and then we'll go back again a year later. But he is, every day we found our new normal. So once you have it, it's never over. It's not over. Caregiving's not over. It's always going to be a part of you. And you'll take that but take it and do something with it. Take it and appreciate what you got from it. Because, one of my favorite quotes is just around, God had you climb this mountain so that you would be stronger on the other side of it. And you have this experience, and that experience hopefully will help others. Mm-hmm. And so that's really what I want for our listeners, is to take the ugly and the good and know that it's messy, and it's not, you can't control it, and you don't have to be perfect, and you will be changed. Mm-hmm. You will be changed, and that's okay.
Yeah. Okay, so
there we are.
I'll ask the question, because we get to ask all of our guests this, Emily. You know what it is.
Yes.
So you get to confess on our show.
I love it.
What your guilty pleasure is during your time in New York, or during your caregiver time, or any time. What is your guilty pleasure?
So I'm going to do two.
You can do two. You're allowed.
My guilty pleasure when I was in New York City was when I would go to Morton Williams or Trader Joe's, to the grocery store, and I had the time to myself, and I would pretend like I was Carrie from Sex and the City, and I would pretend that I didn't have cancer, I wasn't married, and I'm like, oh, this is what it would be like, life would be like if I was in New York and I was this and I was that. I would just kind of fantasize, and I was
25.
I was 25 and not as many wrinkles that you guys can't see.
And wearing 3-inch high heels with good ankles and good knees.
It just was like, it allowed me that safe place. And I had so much, I love Trader Joe's and Morton Williams. And I write about the grocery store all the time in the Caring Bridge. So that was one. And so my guilty pleasure at home.
Yes.
This sounds terrible. My guilty pleasure at home is when I get to have time to myself. And so last night, and this is today, we're recording this on January 7th. Last night, Jason had went out, because I really encouraged him to go and have time with his friends. He can not only see me. We both need time away from each other. That's super important. I have not taken my Christmas tree down, and I don't really care. And so, because I don't care. And like,
I like the lights.
So after I finished doing work all day, I turned off the lights and I had my earbuds in and I was listening to Christian music and my dogs were laying on top of me because anybody knows me or friends on me. And you can be friends with me on Facebook. I'm totally shameless. Just friend me and Natalie Elliott Handy. Friends on me, connect with me on LinkedIn, but Facebook is where you see all the dogs and everything. And it was just so quiet. And I had the Christmas tree on and it was dark. And I thought, I'm going to post this in Facebook because I'd had the worst, most stressful week this week. This week has been very hard for me. I had to make some very difficult decisions this week, decisions that will change my life. And they were the right decisions for me. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited, but I'm also grieving at the same time. And when those who know me will listen to this and will know exactly what I'm talking about. And my guilty pleasure was having that alone time to myself and being with God and with my pups and in the quiet and the dark and seeing the lights.
And caregivers, they understand that sometimes just that couple of moments.
Oh, it felt
Emilie
so good.
Alone.
And here's the thing, I don't even drink. Most people would be like, where was your glass of wine? I didn't need one. Like, I just needed to be still. And then Jason, so here's the best. The end of the guilty pleasure is when Jason walks in and he comes around that corner. And my husband is so hot. My husband is so good looking. And he is 50. Today is his 56th birthday, but I don't care if he's had cancer or not. My husband is a good looking man. And he walked around that corner and he smiled at me. I thought, damn, he's hot. And I felt like a wife. So Natalie, I will leave it at that.
We love you. Now, Emilie, what do you think? We'll keep her.
I love you.
Is she a keeper? I don't know.
Most definitely.
She's a keeper. All right. You know what? We thank everybody for listening. And
thank you for being with us.
We love you. We love you, Nat.
We'll see everybody next time. Thanks.
Yep. Bye.